Welcome back, welcome back. It was in the end hilarious, but it could have been the most terrifying story of the year. Following the attacks on Mumbai, a man claiming to be India's foreign minister was able to telephone Pakistan's President Zardari, and threaten military strikes. Immediately, President Zardari put Pakistan's Air Force on a high alert. The call, it was said, could have prompted a war between the two countries. Only it was a hoax. It took an intervention by the US Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice, to end the confusion. So how fragile is the relationship at the moment between India and Pakistan? Are we on a hair trigger to war? I'm joined now by Imran Khan. Imran, great to see you.
Thank you, David.
This is rather terrifying that the guy who pretended to be the Indian foreign minister got through to the Pakistani president. But what does it also say about the state of the relationship? I mean, is it very, very tense at the moment between India and Pakistan after Mumbai?
Well, actually, before Mumbai, the relationship between the two countries was improving all the time. And somehow, after the standoff where the two nuclear-armed countries' armies stood face to face after the terrorist attacks on Indian Parliament, there seemed to be a consensus amongst the people in both the countries that war is not an option. And so relationship was improving. And suddenly these attacks have, maybe the timing, maybe so high profile, but it has really had an adverse reaction. Bear in mind, India is going into elections, so the sitting government is under tremendous pressure to do something. Pakistan has a very weak government, and so that government is going from appeasement, from the public's point of view, to really then taking a very belligerent stand. So it's, I think, a lot of posturing going on, but I don't think, I think sanity will prevail.
Yes, and there are efforts made at peace and so on. And I mean, you don't think that, obviously, the Pakistani government itself, there were Pakistanis in Mumbai, but the government itself wouldn't have been involved, would it?
Well, you know, David, put it this way, Pakistan government has its hands full. Its army, there's a virtual civil war going on all along the western border, from Balochistan to the tribal areas. Every day the armies, the soldiers are dying, the Pakistani civilians are dying. In last 1 year, there have been 100 suicide attacks within Pakistan. So then there's an economic meltdown where the country is really on a precipice. So would Pakistan government then open another front? Secondly, these groups, these non-state actors, their main target has been the Pakistan army. I mean, they've attacked the ISI, they've attacked Pakistan military headquarters, they've attacked the commando base in Pakistan where they went in and killed 50 commandos. Now, would the army be patronizing the same people who are killing the army? So it just doesn't make sense. In my opinion, what is happening is that the groups that were trained by the CIA and the Pakistan's ISI during the Soviets' invasion of Afghanistan, in my opinion, these groups have sort of broken free from the control of the ISI, and they are sort of non-state actors who are now waging an ideological war against Pakistan army because it's helping the Americans. So Americans are occupying Afghanistan. So remember, these groups were created to fight occupation. The Soviet occupation, they are fighting American occupation. Pakistan is helping the Americans. They are fighting the Pakistan army as well.
Yes.
So I don't, you know, the answer is, I just cannot understand the logic of why Pakistan would open a front like this.
No, I think that's completely persuasive, what you're saying about it. What do you think it was meant to achieve?
I think there's a lot of radicalization that's going on, not just in Pakistan, in the Muslim world. This war on terror has been the biggest disaster. I just hope that one day accountability is done of George Bush. What has he achieved? In 7 years, over 1 million people killed, $1 trillion spent. The world is far unsafer now than it was before. There are nurseries for future terrorists. Afghanistan, now we hear, is 70% under Taliban control. Taliban were imploding when the Americans bombed Afghanistan.
So at the moment, Obama will be assessing that war, the war on terror, and its effectiveness or lack of it. What would you think a new president, a new Democratic president, would do about the war on terror? Abandon it?
Well, there are great hopes in Obama and Biden, for that matter. I personally met Biden and explained to him the futility of what's going on in our tribal areas and in Afghanistan. It's an unwinnable war. There's a whole history behind it. The Soviets had 150,000 troops in Afghanistan. They killed 1 million Afghans out of a population of 15 million. They still lost the war. They still had to give up. And so here is this quagmire. Pakistan is dragged into it. We are stuck in it. I would imagine that Obama has intelligence and integrity to reassess this whole situation. He doesn't have to own up to this. But at the same time, Pakistan has to send a high-powered delegation trying to explain to them the unique history of the tribal areas. Unfortunately, in Muslim world, most of the dictators, in order to get legitimacy from the United States, all pretend that they are also fighting Islamic terrorism. Just like not long ago, all Muslim dictators were fighting communism. Now they're all fighting Islamic terrorism, and they don't help. They're not basically friends of the United States by becoming their puppets. Friends need to tell them the truth, that this is an unwinnable war and it's radicalizing the Muslim world. So there has to be sanity. There's got to be a change of strategy.
And what about, I mean, Pakistan, I mean, the new government, I mean, in terms of, as you said, trying to make lines with India before, I mean, this government is, you said it's weak, but it's better than Musharraf, presumably.
Well, unfortunately, you know, there were great hopes in the elections, but the elections were held in circumstances where Musharraf had sacked all the judiciary. He had done an alliance brokered by the Bush administration between People's Party, which is the ruling party, and Musharraf. So this alliance, in the way the elections were held, with all the judges sacked, election commission not independent, the media muzzled, emergency, I was in jail when they announced elections. So it wasn't the way...
If you should have run in that election, shouldn't you? You'd have got a few seats, because the vote was reasonably accurate. I mean, Musharraf didn't win it.
No, Musharraf didn't win it. Musharraf actually lost only because Benazir got assassinated. If Benazir had not got assassinated, everything was prepared for him to rig the elections. I mean, the pre-poll rigging was unprecedented in Pakistan. It's just that the hatred against Musharraf, especially after Benazir's assassination, reached such a point that you could not even win by rigging those elections. So, in my opinion, we don't really have democracy. We have a president as a chief executive, whereas it's a parliamentary form of government. The prime minister should be the chief executive. He's a puppet of the president. President holds powers that the constitution does not give him. And we still have the same judges which Musharraf appointed. And those judges that gave Musharraf the right to amend the constitution, you can't call them judges, you know. So we have a blind judiciary. We have a dummy parliament because the prime minister is not the chief executive. And we have a president who should not have the powers, but actually has the same dictatorial powers as Musharraf. So the struggle is still going for democracy in Pakistan.
Struggle is still on. It's not lost.
No, it's not lost because the hope lies with the Chief Justice, the only one in our history who stood up to a military dictator. And he has given us hope for an independent justice system. You only have democracy if your judiciary is independent, because that ensures free and fair elections and stops abuse of power. Otherwise, I mean, Mugabe has held elections and Saddam held elections. Hosni Mubarak holds elections, but you don't have democracy.
What did you feel about you advised the English players as a postscript not to go back to India to play cricket. Why was that?
I actually never commented on it. I don't know where this came from.
Oh, really?
Actually, I have always maintained, and it's more relevant for Pakistan because no team has come to Pakistan for fear of terrorist attacks. I have always felt that cricketers will never be targeted. I've never felt that the terrorists would target cricketers, simply because they would lose the public sympathies and support. The terrorists thrive because there's public support for them. If there's no public support, terrorism cannot thrive. So to target cricketers, they would really alienate the public opinion, and therefore I've never thought cricketers were a threat.
Thank you very much, Imran, for being with us, as ever. It's always a great pleasure, isn't it, to have Imran Khan with us. The world's most celebrated globetrotter, Michael Palin, after the news headline.